Hello and welcome back. Today I'm gonna make a Warhammer village, or a fantasy medieval village for wargaming. So I'm gonna use some 3D printed buildings and just create some scenic diorama bases for all of them, and hopefully it'll turn out into a nice fantasy village. I hope you enjoy it. I started by priming all the buildings with spray primer. A yellow kind of beige for the wattle and dow parts, a brown for the wood, and some blue, grey and dark red for the roofs to create some variation. I then used a brush and some airbrush paint to pick out all the beams and the windows in the same kind of brown tone that I sprayed the wood parts. I used a light grey paint here to pick out all the stone corners on the buildings too. The doors were painted in a warm green to just get some color in there. And then I went to the spray booth and I painted all the parts that were gonna be plaster here. I just applied a light grey primer in the middle of these beige parts. Where I wanted to create the illusion of some moss, I used a kind of a warm green here with the airbrush, just to paint some streaks down where the roofs have corners and there's some deep crevices and corners in the walls. I make my own acrylic wash from black and brown paint and water. It's really just cheap craft paint that I buy at a local store here, and then I paint this all over the buildings, all of the roofs and stone and wattle and down, but everything. And when the house is totally covered, I just use some paper towel to wipe off the excess, so the paint just sticks in the cracks and crevices and create this nice kind of shade here. The red roofs were dry brushed with some really red acrylic paint, and then everything is dry brushed with a beige craft paint and a big brush. Just go over everything to get this kind of uniform highlight here. It looks really nice and it brings out all the detail at once. I attached the buildings to the 3mm hardboard with super glue. The boards were cut with an electrical saw and then sanded with the edges to kind of bevel them towards the playing field. And some fences here were glued to place. First I applied the glue to all of them, and then because the glue kind of dries very fast, I positioned them very quickly, all three at once, to get them to fit where I want them to. And I had some nice old citadel trees that I found in a kind of an old used lot that I bought, and I glued one of those there to create kind of a nice feeling of vegetation there. I had a lot of props printed, and these were painted just using contrast paints and some dry brushing. Very simple paint scheme here, and I just make them to fit the aesthetic of the houses, so I don't put the effort in that I would when I paint miniatures, just enough to get you by and look good on the battlefield. The start of the diorama bases are the walls and the props that are attached with super glue, and from there I kind of slowly start building a nice scene here. Usually I plan this out quite carefully before, and then when everything is placed it kind of moves on pretty quickly. I'm using kind of thinned down super glue here and some paint granule that I found at a local hardware store. It's kind of a material that you use to make textured paint, and it sticks really good to the glue and it takes paint very well. And painting the boards, I'm just using some watered down brown paint here to fill all of the granule, the white material there. The ground is dry brushed with the same beige paint that I used for the buildings. It creates unity and it looks really nice. I had some nice pine trees that didn't have bases, so I just drilled a hole in the base and stuck them down with some super glue and a few small rocks that I placed to just keep it in place here. It looks really nice and it keeps the tree from being tugged off the base. To create some visual interest in the ground, I'm using weathering powders here of different colors to kind of make pathways where people have walked or dusty areas. And that makes it look a little bit more natural and create some variation. Also for the wall parts I'm using some green to create kind of a mossy effect here. The last part is the most fun part, and that's the grass tufts and static grass and flocking and some small bushes. And whenever you go to a gaming store or modeling store, just pick some of this stuff up. There's no end to the use for these. If you're painting miniatures or making terrain or dioramas, you can just put them anywhere. It's just so much fun and you need lots of them. So always have a big supply of these. That's my best tip for a modeler. I'm doing the flocking and the static grass last. Some people like to start with this to create kind of a base foundation for putting all the other foliage, but I kind of like to put the bushes and stuff like that first and then have kind of grass around that. But I mean, do what you prefer. There's no right way here. I just do it that way. And after the flocking, everything's done. This didn't really take a lot of time. If you plan ahead and you have everything printed and ready, the painting and assembly is pretty fast actually, and it's a lot of fun, and in a few days you can have a nice little Warhammer village done. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.